She is a sadhvi, a sage, a highly revered position in Hinduism, but that does not stop her from spewing venom. Such morons often comes up and defecate in the open by spewing verbal diarrhea. But they don't bloody read their own cultural manuals that they proudly promote. Satyakam Jabali, believed to have composed the celebrated Jabali Upanishad, was actually born to an unmarried Shudra mother, and his father's name was unknown. According to Valmiki Ramayana, Jabali was an officiating priest and an advisor to Ayodhya royalty during Sri Ram's period. Can you bloody imagine seeing anything like that happening nowadays? That's why I don't like the Hindu right wing, as these bloody fucked up crooks don't read their own bloody literature. And the left that deliberately ignores all these things even after having read all these. Every man is born Shudra until he is initiated into reading Vedas, after which he becomes Brahmin. Or another quote, he is a teacher whose father was a woodcutter and whose son is a warrior. यानी एक ऐसा व्यक्ति जिसका पिता एक लकड़हारा था, जो खुद एक टीचर है और जिसका बच्चा एक क्षत्रिय है. These quotes are from Rigveda. These quotes reveal that Brahmin was a position to be attained through education and contemplation, not a condition or a caste one is born into. If a person is highly learned and well educated and belongs to the Shudra caste, according to the present classification, and I, who is serving a private corporation, is a Brahmin, according to the classification. Now, according to the correct Hindu belief system, in what universe he is a Shudra, as he is an educator? Accordingly, he happens to be a Brahmin, and I, a private sector employee serving a corporation, is a Shudra born to a Vaishya, as my father was an agriculturist. Now, I don't believe in caste, neither should you. But even if you do, then that's the correct order, according to the Vedas. But the present birth-based caste system and the social discrimination is a blot on India and completely against the conceptualization of ancient Indian culture. There are some who claim that the present caste system is sanctified by the ancient scriptures. Well, that's not true. Not true at all. Pandit B.R. Ambedkar, in his scholarly book, Who Were the Shudras, had used Indian scriptures and texts to prove that in ancient times, India had widely respected Shudra rulers as well, and the oppressive verses in the scriptures, such as Manusmriti, that justifies discrimination and a caste system based on birth, were added later into the text. And that's why Pandit Ambedkar burnt the misleading and polluted version of the Manusmriti. And that's why the right-wing groups are crying over KBC for asking such a legit question. Pandit Ambedkar burnt those pages of Manusmriti containing discriminatory references to the treatment towards women and Shudra, and not the whole book, as some left crooks often claims. Buddha has stated that a true Brahmin is determined by the deeds, not birth. Same thing is repeated in Mahabharata too. Thus, we see tension between birth doctrine and deed doctrine in matter relating to Jati and Varna. In all the Puranic stories, we hear of a Chandal who lives in a crematorium, is surrounded by dogs and generally shunned by people. Who are these people? The lower castes? Now, Shivji, who is often hailed as the god of everyone, including outcasts, Aghoris and Nagas. Shiva is called a god who lives with dogs in crematoriums, known as Mahakal. इसीलिए अघोरी भस्म रचाते हैं to please Mahakal. Mahakal was feared and shunned by Prajapati Daksh, who was the direct descendant of Brahm, and hence he was a Brahmin. Daksh was against the marriage of his daughter Sati with this filthy-looking Chandal called Shiva. Daksh was obsessed with purity, and Shiva mocks the very idea of purity. Now, is this not the clash of ancient Hindu conservatives and the Hindu liberals? There was a few examples as well when people of lower caste went on to become highly revered sages, like Valmiki was born a Shudra and Vedvyas was born to a fisherwoman. Where a Shudra Ravidas ji became the guru of Mirabai, where a Brahmin Ramanand became the guru to Kabir, who was a weaver, Dhanna, a Jat, and Kshatriya, a cobbler and a butcher, and became highly revered saint of all time. Because of their high deeds and wisdom, their birth was overridden by their karma. The caste-based discrimination did not stop Shudra to establish Nanda dynasty or Mauryan dynasty or Kakatiya dynasty in present Andhra. But this birth-based caste system became most rigid around the British colonial period, and it has remained so ever since. Scientific evidence provided by genetic research corroborates the ancient scriptural absence of a birth-based caste system. Banning of inter-caste marriage in pursuance of caste purity is a fundamental marker of this birth-based caste system. Various scientific papers published in journals such as American Journal of Human Genetics, Nature and National Academy of Sciences General have established that interbreeding and inter-caste marriages among different genetic groups in India was extremely common for thousands of years until it stopped around 500 AD. And unfortunately, around the same time in 500 AD, caste discrimination arose, and the first time it is recorded in the history. But this caste mobility and social fluidity evaporated with the arrival of British onto the Indian thrones. British, for the sake of convenience and in the pursuit of a simplistic social structure, asked the Pandits of Banaras to interpret the Manusmriti. And those conniving Pandits, probably for their own benefit, created a structure that was highly discriminatory towards women and shudra. And it is believed that all those discriminatory verses in Manusmriti about treatment to shudras and women were added around this time, which were probably not present in the original version. Until 100 years ago, in many villages in Kerala and Maharashtra and Gujarat, there were some communities who were not just allowed to use their village, they had to wear a broom to wipe away their footprints, carrying a pot to spit so that it did not fall on the ground and contaminate it, and a drum to announce their arrival. All these because their family vocation was to clean toilets and deal with animal carcass, a vocation they were obliged to perform as per Jati system. In other words, they could not change their vocation and at the same time were deprived of dignity for it as they were seen impure by birth. Despite great progress in the past 70 years, many people still avoid sitting with lower caste and letting Dalit women cook their food. The argument is still the fear of pollution. This was the time when Jyotiba Phule, who should have been revered by Hindus as Pandit, was castigated by the Brahmins. However, let me tell you another important thing, that this caste system is a social feature of Indian subcontinent only, and it is not found in other Southeast Asian countries, even though they follow or followed Hinduism in the past. Now many non-westernized Indians, or should I simply put as radical Indians, would be unwilling to accept the atrocity literature churned out by Western academics and NGOs. After all, among the most oppressed minorities in the civilized world are the African Americans and the European Romas, as evidenced by various detailed studies. An Indian caste system, having been highly discriminatory, was nothing compared to the slavery forced on the Afro-Americans by the Christian colonialists and Arab Muslims. However, the hypocrisy of Western academics, media, NGOs cannot be used as an excuse for Indians not to confront their own failings. अब तो सुधर जाओ यार.